Hello and welcome to Hello Tokyo, where three not so young men are going to talk about different aspects and interests of their life, and we hope you find it extremely entertaining. First of all, I would like to introduce Dave, who he'd like to talk about music, and let's be honest, who wouldn't?
Hello, how are we all doing?
Very well.
Yes, thank you. Hello, listeners. How are we? Yeah, I ain't going to bloody start, am I? You know, go round and think.
We was going to talk about Bowie, wasn't we?
Bowie, you can do. Yes.
With a touch of the rebel. Not that you're a massive fan.
I'm not. I don't know too much. I know just a few licks. You know, it's like. Cut. Start again.
No, that's Parker, mate. I love it. No, we're just saying what a versatile artist he was, and the fact that I think you picked up on this earlier, how he can kind of change his image. I think that was his way that he survived through the decades, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, a total chameleon. There's a nice word. Write that down. Chameleon. You know, he was. He could be the weird guy, and then he was like the suit guy in the 80s when he would the Let's Dance and all that. And but he always, so he was an artist.
Yeah. He was very aware of what the latest craze was, like with the New Romantics, when he got Steve Strange to be in his fashion and different,
Yeah, but was he aware of it, or was he the founder of it and a pusher forward of it? Like a pioneer. There's another nice word.
That was his genius was coming from South London.
Yeah, yes. I think you're right. Yeah, born in Brixton, apparently. Yeah.
And then he moved to Bromley. I think the thing that connects us all, by the way, dear listeners, is that we're all from South London, one way or another.
Sort of.
Well, yes. I was born in Liverpool Road in Islington, but I rapidly moved to the Rockingham estate in the early 60s, so I regained my credibility.
Ray got a passport.
That's right.
Ironically, I lived on the Rockingham as well.
Did you? I didn't.
Yeah.
No. I lived in...
You're a roader.
I'm a roader.
Yeah.
You might have to explain what a roader is to the wonderful listeners,
We should explain to the listeners
this is Chief Principal, by the way.
Yeah, my name's Ian. Basically, growing up in southeast London, one of the main roads dividing it up is the Woolworth Road. And if you're from one side, you're from an area called Woolworth, so you're called a roader. And if you're from the other side, you're from a place called Bermondsey, and that's where my family have been since before records began.
Yeah.
So all my family are Bermondsey. Dave's family are roaders. Ray.
Well, my dad was from the Cut.
So that's Bermondsey, I would say. Well, that's Waterloo.
Waterloo,
it's just on the fringes of the outskirts of both, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. Waterloo was always posh because it had theatres there.
Oh, Christ.
The old Vic,
Beautiful. Waterloo is known as quite cosmopolitan.
And my mum was from Islington.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, a bit different now, the area, to what it was, but I know what you mean.
And what's ironic is that I'm actually moved, I must be following Ray around, because I moved to Islington as well.
Yeah, I know.
We both lived on I was on the Triangle.
Yeah.
And where was you?
Well, I actually started off in Cloudesley Place off of Liverpool Road.
Nice.
Cloudesley Place.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Beautiful.
I think what people don't really realise is that it was just a working class area.
It was
with
back then.
working class people.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember going to Hoxton in the early 80s to see my aunt.
Yeah.
And you literally would park your car and have a look over your shoulder, or you're going to get clobbered. But I mean, now it's all al fresco, innit? Dining outside, and
Frappe latte.
Do we prefer it how it was or how it is?
I don't like the idea of anywhere where I feel uneasy. Well, I don't miss that element of it. But no, I think in a sense, I mean, this could be a whole new topic for another podcast. But honestly speaking, I feel that Londoners really have been robbed of their London.
You're exactly right, Ray. Our culture.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but is that not progress?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Not when people can't afford
Disgust.
Yes.
When people can't afford to live in their area that they've grown up in, gone to school in. I mean, what you've got to remember, my dad said to me, I mean, he was born 1929, that London was a series of villages, really.
It is, yeah.
So if you lived in Woolworth, somebody who come from Bermondsey was the other side of the world, or somebody who come from Camberwell or whatever. But I think really what happened was it got into a decline, London. I'm going back a long time, probably... When I was born, it was kind of working class people. And then all of a sudden, I think this is another political statement, but after sort of Thatcher era, there become an underclass. Because when I lived on the 12th floor of a tower block, there was no stigma attached with living in council because most people did live in council. And the women used to take a turn washing the landing, keeping it clean, looking after it. And you were proud of where you come from. Yeah. But I think what happened was it was purposely let to get into decline.
Yeah.
I think lots of places were cleared. I mean, God, this is such a long subject.
Slum clearance.
We're talking about Ronan Point when that collapsed and other things because it was shoddy. It was quick housing. They had a crisis. And what they did, these modern houses they were putting up really weren't fit for purpose. No. That's why they've only lasted 20 years and been pulled down. But I think that then what happened was, people blame foreigners for what happened to London. Well, it's all the foreigners moving. I actually don't think it is. I think we've always been multicultural. We've always I don't think that's the real reason. I think money spoiled London, where people basically become outpriced.
Yeah,
that's my view, really.
I don't know. I always think of it as, especially these days, especially going through the knowledge and all that, you start seeing all these other places. But London has become, I see it every day, I work there every day.
Yeah.
Dave's a cab driver, by the way.
We're all bloody cab drivers, but
Some of us more than others.
Okay. London has become the King's New Close. Oh, it's bloody lovely, it's wonderful, you've got to go there. And it's like, when you see it every day, it's not so lovely. Like, some of it's nice, but there's a lot of it ain't so nice. You see people sleeping on the street. And you see, round the back of a fancy posh hotel. It's £1,000 a night in the hotel. Yeah. Round the back, there's a guy sleeping on a blanket on the floor, and you think, oh bloody hell, that's not so good, is it?
No.
And everyone standing outside the pub having a drink. They're all standing on the pavement. Yeah. Pushing and shoving and trying to get in the pub. Or is that I always think that's an age thing because, we're all getting older. I don't want to stand outside a pub in the freezing cold having a drink. I want to go sit in a nice chair and listen to the music and let the fire roar next to me,
Yeah,
is that an old-fashioned thing? Is that me because I'm old now? But, that's, it's lovely, it's wonderful. No, it ain't. It's pushing and shoving. It's bloody expensive.
Well, we can look at it in two ways. London is a victim of his own success, and every great city in the world has always adapted with new waves of immigrants for every generation. My family are Irish immigrants, so thank God for immigrants, otherwise I wouldn't be here. When you get somewhere that's so successful, more billionaires in London than anywhere else in the world, you're always going to, it's like people flock there for opportunity. So we're blessed.
It's a magnet, isn't it?
We're blessed to have all these opportunities. Look at every great city in the world, New York, Tokyo.
Hello,
Tokyo.
Hello, Tokyo.
So we're paying the price for the success. But the flip side of that is we've also got the dividends of business. It's only when I travel abroad that I realise how sophisticated and privileged we are, really, even today, how privileged we are to live in London.
Well, you could even say that we're the south of the country, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, if we'd have been born in one of these areas where they closed all the mines,
exactly.
and
We're
been
blessed.
Absolutely devastating.
Yeah, we'll be slaughtered.
There has always been a north-south divide,
always.
And that's probably less prevalent today. But I do believe that it still exists.
It's still there.
Yeah.
And also, it does still exist. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
On top of that, we've got the class system. So if we are blessed enough to have any foreign listeners at any point, trying to explain the class system to someone who's not from England is almost impossible. And even as I try to explain it, it still doesn't seem real to me that even in today's society, 2022, we have really got an upper class, a middle class and a working class. There's shops in London.
Got two more lower ones,
and we've got lower classes.
But do you know what? I honestly think class is in the mind. This is my only thing. Well, you had a situation, I mean, I'll speak about this later, but I come from the printing industry. Basically, I started at 16 and got a Nat Soap and then a Sogat card, if any of our listeners probably remember what they was. But it coloured your judgment, because if you was an engineer's assistant at, say, the Daily Telegraph in the early 80s, your salary would have been somewhere just under the £50,000 a year mark.
It's a lot of money.
And you were carrying a tool, but it wasn't only that, Ian, it was the time off. You'd get minimum 8 weeks, 12 weeks holiday. If you went sick, you got a full year's sick pay. But the thing is, it coloured your judgment, because if you was earning that money, someone who was a bank manager, probably not even earning a quarter of what you was earning, class goes out the window. My dad always said to me, is what went in your pocket determined your lifestyle. It's like the black cab trade. I mean, you know, anything at one time, they used to call it the win treble. If you owned a pub, had a green badge and a Sogat card, oh, it's all right, room, he's come up with a win treble, you know. But I do think class is in the mind. I really believe that.
Yeah, but Ray, but are you only saying that because you've been fortunate enough to have a good job all your life?
Yeah, probably right. I think possibly if... well, we said this. I'll become what they called an area manager for the Express, which is like a circulation rep. And it was a good salary. I had a company car, phone, and all the wheels, all the whistles and buttons, whatever they call it, bells and whistles.
Bells and whistles, yeah.
And my dad was a reader in the print. My brother was a hot metal compositor. And at the time, he actually said, my brother, God, he said, if I'd have been a milkman, I'd have thought, had my brother been successful?
Yeah.
But because they earned so much more money than me, I was like the poor relation. But I find class a stupid thing because people might be as good as you, but no one's better than you. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I'm saying it's there. It's another element.
It does exist.
It's
does
crazy
exist.
that...
At least that's in my mind, but it kind of does
We could
exist.
go into a shop now in the West End.
You said this and they wouldn't want
and
to
they
serve
wouldn't want to
us.
serve us. They would think we was all bank robbers. And, you
Especially
know,
with a mask on, if it's
and a
COVID.
shotgun. But I think before we move on, I think we should explain what Sogat is, Ray, for the listeners.
It was the Society of... what is it now? I've got... Society of Graphical and Allied Trades.
Brilliant.
That's what it was. God, dear.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what that soap was.
It's a union card, isn't it?
It was a union card.
Yeah.
And like at the time, you had London Central. But basically, the real power was in London. But what you've got to remember, people were treated extremely badly. And I say this to people who are anti-union. If you get sick pay or holiday pay, that's thank you to a trade union for getting that for you.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, unions have been much maligned. Yes, I think there was a period when perhaps a certain element had too much clout and it was kind of abused. Because England's like, irrespective of class, it's like a pendulum effect. It either goes all one way or all the other way.
Yeah.
We never seem to get... Because, let's be honest, you and your governor or the bloke who owns the company, what we should be is an us. Not an us and them. We should be looking out for him and he should be looking out for us. But unfortunately...
It ain't like that.
No,
Never ever going to be like that,
no,
unfortunately.
No. So what it was, we had an opportunity. We had probably a 20-year window where we had the jackboots on and we controlled how many people came in like for a night's work. And, you know, that's where you had... they used the phrase chronic overmanning. I don't know if I want to use chronic overmanning. But no, I mean, I actually believe in unions personally. I think they're a good thing.
Yeah.
I think if we didn't have unions, we'd still have kids going up chimneys and no health and safety.
What's wrong with that? Give him something to do.
Exactly.
But no, that's what it was. Sogat was a very strong print union.
Very strong.
Yeah, it was a print union.
Yeah.
Without going on, but I'll get on my soapbox in a minute. Mr. Speaker. Yeah.
Well, it's so what we're trying to say is that coming from London is the thing we probably identify with the most.
Yeah.
It's what's brought us together.
Yeah.
We're all a similar sort of age, so we all grew up during the 70s and 80s and 90s, I would say.
And me, the 60s.
And
as a kid.
And then we've got other things that bond us together. Like we've all three of us have got a love for music. I mean, Ray's a very good drummer. Davey's a very good guitarist. I like to dabble in music. I absolutely love music. It's always been one of the most important things in my life. And I think what's interesting to me, coming from London, like I say, we are quite reserved, being English, although I do believe that Londoners aren't as reserved as the traditional English person.
No.
But what I love about music is that I believe a lot of the best music has come from London, and we're meant to be known as being reserved all around the world. But how comes we can produce such beautiful music?
Yeah.
That is fascinating to me as a human being.
Yeah, we'll take back what, Nick from America and then sold it back to them. That's what they always say, but it's true, isn't it?
It is very true. It's
people
amazing.
sell
That was the British invasion,
yeah.
that, weren't it?
Of America. But that was all British bands, obviously influenced by American people, like blues people or, whatever, olden day people.
We took what was American, which is crazy in a way and made it even better. I mean, there isn't many instances of that, is there, where you take something from somewhere else and possibly, I think we've done it better, but maybe I'm biased.
Really, two of the biggest bands in the world, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, even today, they're still, talked about a massive, and Rolling Stones are still out there playing now, aren't they?
Unbelievable.
And they're still doing it.
From South London.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kent Borders.
Yeah, Kent Borders, yeah. It's
Dartford, when he
Dartford,
didn't he not meet Brian Jones at Dartford Station? The story
Something like that. I do remember there was a story.
He was the leader.
I think that was
of
Keith
the
Richards.
Oh, was it Keith
Richards lived there as well.
Yeah,
from
he had
Dartford,
the album. He had like a blues album in his bag.
and they used to go around each other's house and listen to it.
So just like how music's one of the things that bonds us together, it bonds so many people. I mean,
it's a universal language.
it's beautiful. I think music is the greatest art form, and I do love, like everyone, I love art. But music is just everything.
See, music, right?
Yes.
And chocolate bars.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere in the world and give someone a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
And they'll go, oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And then you can play music to anywhere in the world.
Unless they're diabetic.
Yeah.
Well, unless they're diabetic, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But no, I'd still eat it.
Yeah.
But, what I'm saying, it's like two things that unite the world. Chocolate, no, it's free actually. Chips. Potato chips.
Cheers.
In England we have chips, right?
Yeah.
Which is chopped up potatoes. You might call them French fries.
Yeah, French fries, yeah.
But we have chips. If you go anywhere in the world, there's some chips, there's some bar of chocolate,
Yeah.
and listen to this music. Everyone will go, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It's
You
true.
know.
Very, very true. When you think about music, it's such a great art form when all it is literally music. There's no images to go with it. And I think the reason that it's so beautiful is because it uses our imaginations. So, for example, a lot of people like watching feature films where there's music, speech and pictures. I personally don't like that. I like music. It basically takes everything back down to its bare necessities and it uses our brains, our imagination to live in that music. And that's why I think it's so beautiful.
It's another thing but it depends on the to prevail a person who listens to it.
Yes.
Because everything does different things for different people. It can either liven you up and lift you up.
Yeah.
Or it can, make you go all slow and down,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Whatever the thing is. But it affects you in a certain way. I don't think it affects everybody.
No.
But most people, it'll affect them in some way.
In some way.
Touch them in some way.
It's a raw emotion, isn't it?
Whatever they perceive it to be,
Yeah, it's very instinctive. It's a very instinctive, like, think back to when you were a baby and there might be music playing, or even what I like to say is that when you're, like, in the pram and you can't sleep, so your mum takes you for a walk in the pram over the cobbles, and that and the sound of the cobbles, the pavement, is almost like your mother's heartbeat, and that's what makes you fall asleep. I love that. So music and drumming and percussion, I believe, takes us back to when we were in the womb.
It's something primal,
It
isn't
is something very, very primal about music.
Wow.
Do you know, I've noticed, been watching a lot of old Hammer House of horror films recently. I mean, I love old films, whether it be Michael Caine in Get Carter or whether it be
Mr. Bumby.
Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Great. But I know they're a wee bit corny, these old horror films, but music was really used extensively in older films,
Yeah.
And if you look at new films, I do believe, unless it's a horror film where they want to make you jump with loud music, they seem to use music a lot less in new films. I don't know. I think the older films relied more on them.
Because technology has come to such a thing now where you can use the green screen and the computer now where they can just basically... So let's go back to the first ever films with silent films. So they had to have like a piano player in the theatre. That's where the music,
the atmosphere.
that's where it comes from. So, so the good and bad thing about technology, once technology comes to such a standard, it can actually take over where it shouldn't, because it's all new.
Yeah, probably stuntmen are all redundant now, I'd imagine.
Exactly.
You don't need them,
So give it 20, 30 years, and I believe films will be going back to where they don't use so much green screen, and the music will become a lot more important again.
Though, if you look at films like It's a Wonderful Life, the Christmas film, I'm trying to think of his name now, who's the actor. It's bad, I should have researched this before I come on. But it was a great film, and a lot of these old films, even going back to the 70s, like Serpico and films like that, they were so emotional and so thought-provoking. You didn't have to see a lot of nudity in the film. You didn't have to see people with blood coming out their neck pumping.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, a bit like Rock Hudson and Doris Day, one leg on the floor before they got in bed kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there was an innocence about films, but there was also a quality about older films that are really quite thought-provoking. My humble opinion.
Yeah.
But a lot of these really made you feel... I mean, what did I watch last night? In the Heat of the Night with Sidney Poitier.
They call me Mr. Tip.
They call me Mr. Tip.
Yeah.
Brilliant film.
Yeah.
And was really tackling 1967 when probably racism in America
was serious stuff,
was proper, shot for smiling at someone, or if you got redlined, that was the end of it, But... it was a great film, and I think lots of these old films really, they were such quality, and the entertainers as well. They was all rounders back then as well. Like now,
there ain't none.
Well, no,
No, you're right.
yeah, I think the talent had to be more top notch than today. I think if you got someone who wasn't particularly talented, but he was just, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Ray Winstone, and I really do love him. But also you could use this with Caney. They are slightly wooden actors. Even Caney's slightly wooden.
Yeah.
He probably.
If you're listening, Mike.
Sorry, MC.
Apologies.
If I tell you once, I'll tell you 1,000 bloody times.
Yeah, but not a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
But honestly speaking, I'm going to say I idolise them both. I think they're great. But I think now acting ability hasn't got to be what it was. You just got to be popular. If they could get a chimp playing the piano and it sold records, we'd have a chimp. That's my own view.
Well, there's 3 chimps doing a podcast.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, just call me cheater. Yeah.
I think we should just quickly go back and say that when Ray mentioned the red line, that is another knowledge. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the knowledge. Let's get that out of the way.
Black cab driving and knowledge.
Another good thing about coming from London is
black cabs are the best in the world.
The black cabs are the best in the world, and we go through a process to get our badge to pass out called the knowledge, and that refers to knowing how many streets do we have to know?
25,000, wasn't it?
I would say at least,
Loads,
loads.
Loads.
Let's say 25,000 streets, up to 15,000 buildings. We have to learn every street in London, and then we go for oral tests, where they give us 2 different places that we don't know what they're going to ask us, and we have in our brain, in our mind, we have to give the examiner the best, the quickest, the safest route from one of the points, which is a building, to the other, and that's basically how we met.
Yeah.
So we're all 3 black cab drivers. Dave is the only one who is still pushing a cab around.
Yeah.
He's out there every night.
Yeah, every night of the week.
Yeah, and you love it, don't you?
I love it, yeah. I love it. It's the
be
greatest job in the world.
To be fair to Dave, he only wanted one job, and Boris Johnson got that, so he's got his green badge round his neck.
Yeah, no, it takes it, and that's all right. No, I love it.
It's a great job.
It is a great job.
Again, growing up working class, that's the dominant feature. To become a black cab driver, with all due respect to cab drivers all around the world, ironically, apart from Tokyo, which is where they wear white gloves.
Tokyo is another knowledge.
It's another knowledge place,
city, yeah.
And so is Barcelona. Being a black cab driver in London is really something. It's very, very iconic, and it's held very highly.
It is,
because
it's
a chance for people to actually become self-employed, to actually really, I don't know, just do well for themselves.
Qualification, which is
it's a vocation. Traditionally, it's been a very well-paid job.
Traditionally. We allege that though.
Allegedly. Yeah, so we all done the knowledge, and as I personally preferred doing the knowledge to driving a cab, I didn't really drive a cab for that long. I was in love with the knowledge, as I know Ray was.
Yeah, I think the romance of it got to me. It was one of those traditional jobs, like growing up, I can remember the jobs that was open. I mean, I was too young to be a docker or anything. Unfortunately, that fizzled out due to containerisation, which is another story for another podcast. But when I left school, I can never forget, we had a careers officer come in. And it'd be like, next! You walk in like a lamb for the slaughter, sit down, put the noose around your neck. And he said to me, what do you want to do when you leave school? And I said, well, I want to be a professional drummer. You know, don't laugh. I actually believed I was going to be a professional drummer. And I said, but my dad, he said, you need a lot of luck to do that, which you obviously do, but you don't realise that when you're 16. You think you're going to be the next Spandau Ballet.
You was good enough, right?
Yeah, thank you very much. Checks in the post. But the upshot of that was, I said, but my dad is going to get me a job on the national newspaper. Yeah. So he went, national newspaper? So get card. I said, that's right. He went, oh, well, couldn't get me a job on there, could he? Next! Shut the thing. And that's how it was. Yeah. But back then, there were so many avenues, even though it was a depressing time, because Thatcher came to power in 79, and that's when things started to change. But that's another thing, and that is just my humble opinion. As I say, people may differ from that. I'm a little bit left of Chairman Mao, I'm afraid. But there was like the print. If you wanted a job, there was British Telecom. There was the post office.
Job, Before that, there was the docks.
Yeah, before that was the docks. And but what happened was, obviously they call it progress. I'm sure when the ferrymen were standing where London Bridge was built, suddenly see that go up and thought that's the end of our livelihood. And the trouble is, this is all well and good having change. But if there's nothing for you to go to, then it's just being absolutely slaughtered. That's the problem.
That's true.
Well, a lot of that exists today. This is going to get heavy now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about where we're living today, this has moved it right on, people.
Yeah.
Right. Where we're living today is all the I won't go too much in it, but all the underhand jobs, i.e. the window cleaner, the cab driver, you know, the market man. These guys all slowly getting eroded because the technological world is taking over. And there's been a what they call it, a technology revolution.
Yes.
And it runs everything now.
Yeah.
And it allows people to do all different kinds of things. But your average Joe bloke who doesn't, i.e. me, of the wrong age and doesn't want to get involved with technology because we grew up on the street and we grew up making our own.
They call us Luddites.
Luddites, yeah, that's right. But the thing is, that's where we live in now. So it's the same thing as what they had. Like you say, the ferryman was like, oh shit, there's a bridge now.
Yeah.
Now, you know, we're looking at it going, oh right, okay, we can't do that no more because it's all done by the computer or done by...
Computer says no.
Computer says no, and you can't do that. And you're shit. If you don't know how to read it, understand it, which is more or less me, to be honest. But I don't care. I'm a dinosaur, and I like being a dinosaur, and I ain't got that much time. So, no.
And we're looking on the bright side.
Yes.
Well, no, call it what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's not like it's gonna. Well, it probably will affect my life. It does now, but I don't care. I don't want to get involved with all that. But that's how we live in now. Like, you know, we are like the ferryman looking across, watching the bridge go out.
But you know, something you just said. Like when I listen to what Dave's saying, I've got an affinity with what he's saying because I can remember we moved from Camberwell to Welling in 1970. And on a Sunday, it used to be traditional for the older fellas. I'm talking about guys born 1930, 1935, that sort of age group. So my dad's age group. Yeah. But I can remember my dad sitting there and he'd say, oh, hang on a minute, Brian's over the road, he's got his bonnet up. And my dad would go over and give him hand. And there was, I think the trouble is, my dad said it to me years ago, he gave me a lot of good advice, shame I didn't need it really, but he said that life has become about things, where things matter more than people. And I think we was all born into an era when people didn't have a lot, really, to be fair.
Coming out of the war, wartime.
I mean, them poor sods come back from the war. What did they get? A slum to live in, a D-mob suit that didn't fit, and a couple of copplers. And there's Winston going, peace in our time. And we said, yeah, thanks a lot, we'll have a Labour landslide. But, no, I mean, you could... but you could go on, couldn't you? You could talk about Clement Attlee, you could talk about Nye Bevan, great social reformers. But now we're very much a dog-eat-dog society. And I do find that a terrible shame because, you know what, I take the view, never ever judge someone until you've walked in their shoes. Yeah, exactly right. You know,
that's very true.
I do really believe that, but I think somewhere in society, and this is getting pretty deep now, but I feel we've lost our way, in a way. You know?
We have.
And like us three sitting around here talking, there might be people out there going, oh yeah, you know, I agree with that.
There will be.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of us, but it's just always treat people how you'd like to be treated. I
Oh,
think.
that goes back thousands of years. That's a biblical, that is,
Yeah,
mate.
but-
Treat others as you would have them treat you.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
have choked here now. It's probably-
Oh, he's lost it. He's funny lost it.
Yeah, we're getting emotional now.
I'll tell you, I'm trying to figure out that there's always a common theme, and the common theme of this podcast today is progress. And even though progress is good, whether or not it's like the different immigrants coming into London, or technology, or even the progress in music, in art, unfortunately, there's always going to be some cannon fodder, like the ferryman, as you said.
Yeah.
They're always going to have to pay the price.
Yeah, but it's how it's done as well, Ian. I mean,
Yeah.
without going on at length, I mean, I could talk about Wapping. I mean, Rupert Murdoch.
You better explain what Wapping is.
Yeah. Well, Wapping's a place in East London, and basically all newspapers were printed in Fleet Street for ages. It was like the Inner Temple's always been
Yeah.
solicitors, and
Yeah.
this Fleet Street was the one, and docks
Yeah.
were the docks, and
Yeah.
that's how it went. But basically, the print unions were incredibly strong, and they actually negotiated good rates of pay, terms and
Yeah.
conditions for their members. But to be fair, it wasn't perfect. You know, they say that a camel is a horse designed by a committee, and that always makes me laugh, right? But the bottom line was, in essence, I think there were elements of the print unions that pushed it too far. I mean, I've heard it said like that the pigs with the longest snouts got all the
Yeah,
cream out the
true.
trough, and you know, and there was snobbery within the union. If you was in SOGAT, someone in the NGA, which was another print union, because they was a skilled union, they looked down on the people that was unskilled, and it's crazy situation.
Human nature, right?
It is, but go on.
Unfortunately.
Go on, Dave.
No, so that just links back to what we talked about class. See?
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
Everything's
That's
linked.
where it comes from. That's what
Everything
it is.
is linked.
Well, you saying that,
natural.
I think some of these builders who, you know, I wouldn't get out of bed for less than 300, they're worse than the hedge fund
Yeah, they
managers
are.
in that way. To treat your own
Human
like that.
nature, unfortunately.
But
Yes.
wrapping the Murdoch situation up very quickly, he went to a solicitor and he said, right, he's going to build a plant in Wapping, in East London, to bring out a new evening paper. So what he did, he went to a solicitor and said, what is the cheapest way to get rid of my workforce? 6,000 people, I want them gone.
Yeah.
So they said, well, Thatcher is changing the anti-trade union laws. She's bringing in these laws where they can't have mass picketing. It can only be 6 people. Because what used to happen, other unions would come down, blockade it, and then they couldn't get papers in or out. And that was unity with strength.
Yeah.
But what she did, she systematically chiselled away. And anyway, went to a solicitor. He had secret meetings with Thatcher, and what they said was, we are going to force them into a strike, because the minute they take strike action, we could sack them. Now, was a shortfall on the union side, perhaps they should have thought about that a bit more, but they voted to strike because he said, I'm not recognising the union in the new plant. Well, if that's not a red rag to a bull, you don't say that. He didn't want to negotiate.
Yeah.
Anyway, they went on strike, and basically they paid the police mega overtime. I can remember my brother's father-in-law walking home one night down Virginia Street, and there was a police meat wagon parked up, and they had £20 notes all around the police helmet like this. And they went, good night, boys, we're on treble time. And that was someone who'd lost his job.
Terrible.
But this is what I mean. And as I say, you know, I think when you say about change, about the ferrymen,
Yeah.
the bridges, I think if things are done humanely, like the miners' strike, perhaps if they'd have said, well, look, we can't keep an unprofitable mine open, but what we can do, we're going to move Barclays Bank call centre up
Yeah.
to Leeds,
Yes.
and we're going to retrain
Yeah.
fellas or girls or whatever to do something new. And I just think that people always, there's a selfishness
There
with
is.
people. Like a friend of
Unfortunately.
mine at
Oh,
work,
I can tell you, I got one for you.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah, go on,
A
no, go
little
on,
interjection.
go on.
This is to quote the words of my very, well, not good friend, but you know,
Acquaintance.
no. Person that I like very much,
Oh.
Mr. Springsteen.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Poor man want to be
Oh,
rich.
God.
Bruce.
Rich man want to be king.
Yeah.
King ain't satisfied till he rules everything.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah.
So that's
true.
the same sort of
Human
thing.
nature.
But that's human nature, okay.
Yeah.
You see,
No,
that's
that's
what it
very
is.
true.
It's like greed is good, greed I want it.
Yeah.
But some people are like, you know what, I don't need no greed, I've got a little bit. You know, anyway, sorry,
No,
Ray,
no,
I've
no,
jumped
no,
in on
no,
you.
It's driven by, in my opinion, it's driven by fear.
It's a question of degree.
Fear brings anger to a man's tongue.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
Chinese
Yeah.
Yes.
proverbs from
I think you're
donkeys.
right. But what I was going to say now, the knowledge, I mean, I wasn't particularly academic at school. I can remember my dad saying to me when I left school, he said, look, boy, what do you want to do for a living? So I went back to the, I want to be a drummer.
Yes, drummer, yes.
Yeah. And he said, look, academically, boy, you're not going to set the world alight. And he said, practically, you couldn't find your arse with both hands. Which it was words of encouragement, harsh but fair.
Harsh but fair.
But the bottom line is that when I passed the knowledge, it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I've got ultimate respect for all cab drivers because it is such a slog. It took me a long time. I've been too embarrassed to say how long it took me, but it took me a long time. Yeah, I'll give it. I run out of fingers, but I like to use my toes. No, but a friend, and he was a friend, and he said it in jest, but he went, I don't know why you're bothering, just use sat-nav. And I thought, you're talking without knowledge, because a good cab driver doesn't use it, and he will know, what if the GPS goes down and it stops telling him where to go left and right? What if there's roadworks? A cabbie will have a skeletal view of the outskirts and in the main, and he will have a detailed view of the city, of EC1, of the West End. But people, as long as it's all right for someone else to earn minimum wage, it's all right for someone else to have a rough deal, as long as it's not them. That's how people are.
Again, that's human nature, which is pretty bad. It's ugly, but it is true.
I've got a story about that. I think I'm actually quite political because...
Not as bad as Ray, but...
Not as bad as Ray. But, so as I say, like my father's family lived in Bermondsey since before records began. Like, it's one of the biggest slums in Europe for 500 years. Everyone downtrodden, everyone absolutely looked down on the way that my family, like all of our families spoke, acted. And one beautiful thing that can come from that, I believe, is that when you've got nothing, then you put... this is why working class people back in them generations was try to dress well. They try to dress well, because when you've got nothing, sometimes you've only got your pride. Now, I will say that your pride can either be your best friend when you've got nothing, or it can be your worst enemy when you start to, please God, you start to get things in life. But my family was downtrodden, like all of our families, and I just thought that was such, it was before my time, but makes me very sad when I think about it. Then let's go one step further. My poor old mum come over from Ireland when she was 13, absolutely even poorer than my English family, and guess what? My beautiful English family started looking down on my mum's Irish family.
Yeah.
So that is, unfortunately, unless we can get the intelligence to stop this, that is human nature. I believe that our generation is probably the first generation to get some sort of emotional intelligence where we can put a stop to that.
A lot of the young, you're right. I mean, actually, you just sound about dressing well. There was an old father of the chapel, Printer. He was like a union convener, and he's a lovely bloke. He's dead now, unfortunately. A good friend of mine, and he was at work and where I worked at a newspaper, and the chairman who owned the newspaper walks up to him, and he was going in for a meeting, my union rep, and he had a lovely Savile Row suit on.
Nice.
And he come up to him and touched his lapel. Now, don't forget, this guy in question is a multi-billionaire, so there's no question. He could buy Savile Row and get a suit there. Yeah. And he said, looking very nice there, Peter, nice bit of schmutter.
Nice bit of schmutter.
And he turned around and he said, Chairman, he said, the poor always dress well to hide their impoverished roots. True. And that was just, when you said that, it just kind of made me think about it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful way to using your intelligence to learn how to communicate.
Yeah. See, I don't have that. I don't have that mentality, that where you said, it's quite right, I understand and see that. Yeah. Me personally, in my head, I don't have that.
No. Well, you're blessed. So that means that you've either been taught that, or that's just
you a touch.
That is your actual natural way.
That's kind of me. I'm like, I don't have that thing to have the suit on, but I get it because my granddad and my great grandfather.
Yes.
He was on the beach in his suit.
Yes.
But you're not in competition, are you, Dave? That's the difference.
Most people are.
You are content, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Do you know when people? I
suppose I'm lucky.
I just told the boys tonight I got a job with one of the supermarket chains. I better not say they are delivering their food, and no one batted an eyelid in it. Oh, that sounds all right. Because there's no job snobbery. Some people feel that a job defines who they are. You know, I suppose you would with a black cab driver, but that's kind of a romantic view, and I approve of that. That's not a snobby view, that's a romantic view.
Yeah, but you work so hard to get that.
No.
You earn
No,
it,
but
don't
you know, like people say, well, I'm a manager. Or they suddenly think they go to bed on a Friday night and Monday morning they wake up and they've undergone a metamorphosis and they're a completely different person. You know, I think that it is crazy. People's insecurities, what Ian was talking about.
It's fear.
Yeah, worried about how people see you, or you know. I mean, if you like someone, I mean, it's like, I like John. He's got a £50,000 car and he's got £1 million house. Well, actually, if John's a prat, he's a prat. Don't matter what suit he's got, where he, ain't it though, Dave?
You might wear an Armani suit, but he's still a prick. Yeah,
exactly right.
Is that right?
You know, exactly right. You know, that is a really. How people can look, you know, you get people, I've discussed this with Ian, sorry for going on Ian, but you walk into a room and they'll go, he can help me, I'll study him, he can't help me, sod him, just to be like that, you know. And when you were talking about the Irish coming over, like being Irish, that's like in America, the trailer trash, they called them, looking down on the blacks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having someone else to look down at. I've never understood that mentality.
Because, so again, two reasons. One, that you've never had to understand it.
No,
and two, thank God, I believe with all three of us have got good hearts.
Yeah, that comes into it.
Having a good heart is so important. And again, if you're not born with a good heart, it doesn't matter, but please, we can all try and learn to get a good heart.
It's about knowing the difference, isn't it, I suppose?
Of course. Nature and nurture, people.
Yeah. It's, like you said about the fear thing.
It's fear.
I'm like, doesn't matter. So what, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, all that. And if you grow up again in it, like, from where we are, South Londonish, you know, South London.
Yeah.
And you mix in and you live with all other peoples. And so it don't matter to you. You don't see the differences because you all come up, all right, we all have wars with each other and all that sort of thing here and there, but you just kind of grow up.
It's a melting pot, isn't it?
Yeah, and you kind of grow up with that.
Yeah.
You know, when I worked the market time, with everybody.
Yeah.
And we all got along and everyone got along nicely. No one had a problem. You know, so...
We adapt. Again, we adapt.
Yeah.
And what I think is so good about, you know, like just today, we would have mentioned some Jewish words. We would have probably mentioned some rhyming slang words. Coming from London, it wouldn't be unusual for us to use 3 or 4 different slang words, slang languages.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that is very, very interesting. I'm fascinated with big cities because they are so much culture and so much diversity, I think the word is.
Well, you know where that will come from.
Right on, diversity, the buzzword.
But do you know where that will come from, Cockney rhyming stains? Because they didn't want people to know what they were talking about.
It was the criminals.
Yeah.
When you've got so again, unfortunately, when you're working class, going back centuries, and you've got absolutely no money,
You have to mix with certain people.
you have to mix with certain people, and that's where back slang comes from. That's where rhyming slang comes from. Even when we use the word schmutter, that's Jewish.
Yeah.
I love slang. And again, slang.
We've been brought up with it because we all cab people.
Yeah.
Or I'm a market man.
Yeah.
You know, raising a paper man.
Yeah.
You know.
But do you know what? It wasn't said, you know, like now that you get, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Jamie Oliver and I think he's great and I think he gets much maligned when they call him a Mockney instead of a Cockney because that's spiteful, really, because he's an inoffensive bloke. And
He's absolutely
He's trying
free.
to do his right
He's got
thing.
like 400 million quid.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Well,
well,
he's done so well for
He's
himself.
laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah,
there.
good
But
luck
what
to
I
him,
mean
yeah.
is I don't like anyone digging anyone out. I mean,
No,
I
horrible.
always think praise in public but bollock in private.
Yeah.
I don't like slagging people. I really do. But, do you know, I mean, people, my dad, when I grew up, he used to say, sorry, I talk about my dad a lot, probably because I'm still grieving for him.
It's
He's
nice,
been gone
right?
20 years, bless him.
Yeah.
But he'd go, I mean, I can remember being a kid in his Mark 1 Cortina, we'd be around Poplar or somewhere,
yeah.
and he'd go, I've got to find a Sherman boy.
Yeah.
And you think, what's he on about?
Yeah.
Like Sherman tank, you know. Yeah. And everyone he met, it was, hello, John, all right, John.
Yeah, everyone was John.
And I was a kid, was it same as your dad? And I grew up thinking, what a popular name John is. Everyone's called John.
My dad used to call everyone Chief.
Chief.
And so do I.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when I was in a market game, it was always John
Lil.
and Lil for the women.
That's it.
Hello, Lil.
Hello,
How
Lil.
you doing?
Hello, Lil. Yeah.
That's brilliant, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Everyone. My name's Muriel, she used to say, this woman.
Yeah.
From Oxley. It's Muriel. No, it's not. You're Lil now.
Oh.
And all the women are Lil.
But now you transcended that. I worked in IT at a newspaper. And I ended up calling the woman. I said, "Oh, okay, love, I'll do that."
Oh.
And she reported me.
Oh,
Yeah, you
no.
can't say that no more.
But what a load of nonsense that
Well,
is.
there's an interesting subject. I don't know if you want to go down
Yes,
that
let's
rabbit
go.
hole.
Go on.
Let's go.
Here we go.
Well, it's
Yeah.
the modern world, isn't it? Oh,
Yeah.
you can't do this, you can't. Now, when we, as London people or South London people, hello, love, how you doing? You don't mean nothing by it.
It's a
not
term of endearment.
sexist and it's
Not
not
at all.
You know,
It's a
we use
term
it
of
all the time.
endearment,
It is.
it's like
It's-
a term of friendship. Yeah, a term of
Yeah.
friendship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, darling, no way.
Yeah. Oh, you
Hello,
darling all the time.
How you doing? All right.
Oh, love. Yeah.
But you know, some people these days. I mean, the offence. I'm offended. You can't say that.
Yeah, it's
you know,
very,
it's all a bit. Holding the door open for a woman.
Yes.
We do that naturally.
Yes,
I
yes,
do
yes,
that.
yeah.
You know, if you're walking in a shop, hold the door.
Yeah.
There's a lady behind you, or a kid.
It's
or
out
whatever.
of respect. It's out of
manners.
respect.
That's
Manners.
old-fashioned manners.
Yeah.
But today, you hear people, oh, don't do that. You know, because of this
Yeah.
equal thing. But there's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it.
That's
Because
what's
you're doing it for the right reasons.
reasons.
Well, things that count, right? In 1970, when I moved to Welling, my mum wanted a new washing machine. Believe it or not, it was a top loader.
Yeah.
Well, my mum used wooden tongs.
Tongs,
that's it,
It was and she used
Yeah.
to pull it. I mean, we had a tiny galley kitchen in
Yeah,
Welling,
yeah, yeah.
and she used to pull it out, wheel it up to the sink, plug it in. It was amazing. I mean, she said they were better than the front loaders, but bless her, she's not here to substantiate that now.
Yeah.
But I can remember she went down to Welling High Street. She wanted a new machine, and we had to get it on finance.
Yeah.
And she went to sign the finance agreement. He went, "Oh no, where's your husband?" And she said,
No,
"Well,
well,
he's not here. I'm paying for it. I've got
Yeah.
my own job." No. And in 1970, as recently as 1970, she was not allowed to sign a
Wow.
finance agreement without her husband.
Well, that's bad.
So them kind of things,
Yeah.
I totally agree that they're wrong.
yes, that's wrong.
Yes.
But calling someone
Hello,
love,
love.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, how you doing?
but when I was
You know,
when I was
It's a term of endearment.
when I was a rep at the Express, it was a Saturday morning. My son Dan, who's now 33, was 2, and he was hanging around my neck, and we were, I don't know, playing Planet of the Apes. I think I was Galen, or
Yeah.
he was Urko.
Yeah.
I look like Urko. That's another story. But basically, we're playing, and the phone goes, and I pick it up, and it's my manager.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm out on the road as a rep. So he's going, "Hello, Ray, it's Mike." I said, "Oh, hello, mate." He said, I've rung you. Now, he's ringing me in my own time on a Saturday, but I didn't mind getting a call because I'm not like that.
Yeah.
So I said, "Hold on a second, mate." And I went like to Dana, "Hang on a minute." I just put him
Yeah.
on the floor. I said, "Daddy's got to take this call." And when I went back, he went to me, "Ray, you called me mate." I went, "Yeah, that's right." He said, "I'm not your mate. I'm the regional sales manager."
Oh.
And I said, "Do you know what? I'll forgive you." He said, "What?" I said, "You're a Brummie, aren't you?" I said, "What's that got to do with it?" I said, "Well, you wouldn't understand. It's a Londoner's term of endearment." I said, "But you're not my mate. You're quite right. I should call you Mr. Latham."
Yeah.
I don't care. I thought he was bad news, so I don't care if he sees the podcast.
You won't hear that.
Yeah, and he's probably dead now, but I don't wish that on him. But anyway, he didn't understand it. Yet, you know, talking about snobbery and everything, I've always stood up for what I believe was right. And one day at work, I had a black shirt on. Right, that was remember about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, men were wearing black shirt. We all looked like we worked for Costa Coffee, didn't we? And I was turned up for a meeting as a rep, and he went to me, Ray, can I speak to you? Can I speak to you? I went, "Yeah, what's the matter, Mike?" He went, "You've got a black shirt on." I said, "Extremely perceptive, yeah, I've got a black shirt on." He said, Don, who was the circulation director there, he said, "Don doesn't like black shirts." I said, "Well, that's funny. When I was in Next buying some new gear," I said, "I bought some ties and shirts and that." I said, "I didn't see Uncle Don popping up with his credit card. So I don't care whether he don't like it. I'll pay for it. And unless you give me a dress allowance," I said, "I'll put a frock on if you pay me, but I'm not wearing it." So he said, "Well, you know, I'm just telling you shit." I said, "I'll tell you what. Let's not whisper by the coffee machine. Let's both be men.
Yeah.
And we're going in to see Don, and I will explain. I'm wearing a black shirt, and I know he's not his dress sense, or he doesn't like it,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm doing." But they're the type of things. Well, my dad used to call it the kicking, licking syndrome.
Yeah.
It was kicking the arse below
Yeah.
and licking the arse
Yeah.
above. And I hate that.
That's good. I like that one.
But I hate that, Dave.
I know,
Just to
it's
treat
just-
me.
No, it's-
I guarantee now, if you won 50 million quid, people who've been our family, all of a sudden you'd be their best mate. I really like that. What a smashing bloke, you know.
Yeah.
He's a serial killer.
Again,
I don't care, I like him.
Yeah.
Human nature again, isn't it? That's a thing that's, just happens, you know.
I've been
That's why you've got
obsessed
to keep
with
quiet when you bloody win the lottery.
I've been
That's
obsessed
gonna
with fairness all my life, and I hate that. I hate anyone to feel subservient. I hate anyone to feel as if they're treated second rate, because everyone's got a worth and everyone should be treated equally, I think. And when you tell me things like this, you're quite right. I'm not Irish. I didn't go and see a card in a window. No blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
Yeah.
But it does make you feel, I'm lucky I've never been in that position. I said once to my dad that I wanted to be in the Jackson 5 as their drummer, and I wish I was black.
Yeah.
I was about 12 when he went to me. And not that he was anti-black at all, but he knew what a rough deal they got. And he said, you don't know how lucky you are being white.
Yeah.
And I think that was true at the time.
So true. So true. So again, the common theme, it seems that with everything in our lives, whether it's language, anything, apart from human nature, is adapting.
Yeah.
And let's pray to God that human nature can adapt for the better as well. Because it seems to me that that's the common theme today.
Well, what a roundup, eh?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
You couldn't ever go and have a word with Putin because you're at the moment.
He needs to look in that, but we'll talk about him another time.
Yeah.
If only I knew a cab driver to give me a lift there.
He's going to say he's had Putin in his cab. He was just taken into the Berlin Wall, or where it was.
Yeah.
But no, I've enjoyed it. It's been nice having a chat here.
Yeah, we're almost at the hour mark, so have we got any final? Let's have some final words.
Final words this year.
Anything to say?
Be lucky.
Be lucky.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Same here. I've enjoyed doing the podcast. I hope people have found it entertaining.
Yeah, please God.
And if you want some more, let us know somehow. I don't know how you
and
let
I've been
people
told
know.
listening to me is a good cure for insomnia, so you'll be okay.
So thanks for everyone for listening.
Thank
and
you.
to all the kids out there, stay in school.
Stay in school.
And a bit of Tokyo before we go.
Nice bit of jazz.
Well done.